Okay, this is a Sikha from Shabbos Mevorchim Kislev, Tafshin Memvav 1985. And in the earlier part of Farbrengen, which it could be that we actually learned on another occasion, and maybe we'll learn it next week, depending on what Sikhas on Simcha I find, spoke about the nature of Chodesh Kislev and how it has to do with Simcha, both because it concludes with a Yom Tov, and Yom Tov is Simcha, it concludes with Chanukah, and also because of dealing with the revelation of Chassidus, Yutas Kislev, and Yutas Kislev has also to do with the Baal Shem Tov, because the Alter Rebbe was the one that brought the Baal Shem Tov's teachings out Begolui, and the Baal Shem Tov taught about the importance of Simcha, and also the Mittler Rebbe, the ongoing Hamshach of Teres Chassidus Chabad, his birthday, his Yartzeit, his day of Geula. So in general, the Rebbe spoke about how the entire month of Kislev, both externally and internally, has to do with Simcha. Now the Rebbe is going to speak a lot more practical, with all the challenges that a person might feel to having and being in a state of Simcha. So we're on the bottom of the page by Ois Ches. That's 3 paragraphs in the bottom. Yesh lo Hoisiv, the Rebbe says we can add to everything he spoke about before, about how Kislev is so important, and the emphasis is on serving Hashem with joy. Shegam in hadgoshes inyan hasimcha mitzad inyoni apnimi shel chodesh Kislev. Also, the emphasis on the idea of joy, because of the inner idea of the month of Kislev, which is Gilui Teres Chassidus, the revelation of the teaching of Chassidus. It's something that's understood simply to every single Yid. Even the least learned Yid can appreciate why there is something what to be besimcha because of the revelation of Pnimis HaTorah in the month of Kislev. Gam Yehudi Pashut. Even the most ordinary Yid, Yedeo Margish, he knows and he feels. From the time that he merited, that Hashem gave him the merit, that a shliach should come to him, shliach shel Nesidarenu, a shliach of the leader of our generation, a shliach shluchai, or even a shliach of the leader of our generation. And and he told this person, this ordinary person, was told about Teres Chassidus. Ad shenasa Chassid, he was so informed about Chassidus until he became a Chassid. So since then, since that occasion, hichnis hadavar chayis v'simcha b'chol inyonav. So this matter and the becoming a Chassid and knowing about Chassidus brought in vitality and joy in all of his matters. Eret angehoben leben mit Yiddishkeit. He began to live with his Yiddishkeit. Like the matter also expressed itself that he sings a joyous nigun until he goes out in a dance. And like we said before in other times, his being joyous and his singing a joyous song and going out for a dance is not contradictory to the fact that a person knows his own spiritual state and situation. In other words, it doesn't mean being oblivious, that Rebbe says earlier in the Farbrengen. A person needs to know where their spiritual state is at. But still in all, despite the fact that I may be aware of where I'm at spiritually, top of the next page, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, brings from the Zohar, that joy is staked into his house, into his heart from this side. In other words, there could be joy because of certain things, even though there might be other things that maybe there's nothing what to be happy about. And the Rebbe says, this is a very normal thing. A person lives daily with this type of feeling, that they can be not so excited about other things, but that doesn't mean that because I'm not so joyous about other things, I can't be joyous about what there is to be happy about. Like the most ordinary person knows from his daily life. When a regular person occurs by him things that bring him joy, he is actually happy. Even if he didn't become an unbelievable rich person physically, and how much more so he's not unbelievably rich spiritually. Not only that, but could be he's even lacking things that are truly considered lacking and deficient. But still in all, a person rejoices in the moment. A person may have many things that might be troubling him, but he tasted something good, he heard some good news, he becomes happy because of it, despite the fact there's other things going on. So the Rebbe says the same thing by a Yid. Despite other things that might be going on in his life, he says, spiritually I know I'm not the way I'm supposed to be, for example. Or other things, the darkness of Golus he's going to speak about later on. Still in all, there are so many things of which a Yid needs to be happy for. Concerning the matters that bring a person to joy, a person doesn't need to go searching. Yehudi, the most ordinary Jew that doesn't even know how to learn Chumash. He knows where it says at the beginning of the Siddur that the Siddur is something that is equal for all. There's no distinctions. You don't have to be the great or the simple person. It's for everybody. It says over there, I thank you that you return to me my neshama. This is something that he says immediately when he wakens from sleep, before he even washes his hands, and before he even has the opportunity and time to think, where is he and what's happening with him, he says immediately, I'm thanking you that you returned to me my soul. Therefore, let's look about it. When we're talking about thanks, thanks means something good occurred to me. Where does thanks result from? It's a result of the fact that someone gives him something good that brings him to joy. How much more so in our situation? The thanks is on something so vital, so crucial, the main thing of everything, that you return to me, my neshama. The most important and most primary thing by every creature, even non-Jews, that without having life in him, all other things don't apply. Since that's the case, it's understood and it's obvious the great joy that there is just from being alive. So the Rebbe is saying, you don't have to be a great thinker and a great philosopher to realize that what I have to be joyous about. And it's something that's so obvious that we say it before my mind is even clear from sleep. I'm already thanking Hashem for being alive. And so despite anything else that I may think that I'm unworthy, etc., but what could be a greater joy than that? Now, once we're done with that, there's more joyous things that we enumerate. Afterwards, he continues saying all the brachas, the morning brachas, Hachal ma bracha baruch hanois and sechvil v'yin alafchem b'yom v'loyla, beginning from the bracha, the one who gives the rooster understanding to differentiate between day and night. Ulefneza baruch hu till yadayim, we're thanking Hashem for the mitzvah of washing the hands. Ad bracha, until the bracha baruch hu l'amar v'sheinu me'enois nu'afapoy, the one who removes sleep from my eyes and slumber from my eyelids. And the one that does good kindnesses to his nation of Yisrael. So what are all these blessings? These are all, we're thanking Hashem. Thanks comes for something that's good. If something good happens to me, I'm joyous. Asher kol inyane bracha vaydak shurim im shel simcha kanal. All matters of bracha and thanks are connected with the idea of simcha, like we said before. Movement is understood. Despite the fact that being joyous in all these matters is something that's obvious. In actuality, this was revealed through the teachings of Chassidus, like also earlier in the Farbrengen he spoke about. Because in the generations before the revelations of Chassidus, there was the main avodah was in the line of awe and fear of Hashem and bitterness and being upset at oneself. Once these ideas of joy were revealed by Torah Chassidus, so now we even are able to explain it in the most simple manner, in a way that's understood even to the most ordinary Yid that doesn't know any great deep concepts. So the Rebbe says further, so the summary and what we take from all of the above, everything said before, when the month of Kislev comes, beginning from the Shabbos where we bench the new month, we need an increase in the matter of joy with more strength and power, in a way of increasing in joy, until a great amount of increase. And then the Rebbe adds another thing. Another thing that what occurs and what the quality of Simcha is, through increasing in joy, we negate all untoward and all wanted things. And we need to preface the following. What's the reason why the emphasis on joy was only revealed in the latter generations? Seemingly, if joy is such an important part of Avodas Hashem, shouldn't that have been revealed earlier? So the Rebbe applies towards joy the same thing that the Rebbe says often about Chassidus. If Chassidus is so great and so holy and so important and so vital and crucial, why was it only revealed now? So the Rebbe's explanation, one of the main explanations the Rebbe gives, is because of how low and how difficult the Golus is these days, we need that extra power of Chassidus to overcome it and to deal with the difficulties of Golus. So the Rebbe now applies the same thing with Simcha. One of the crucial things that Chassidus revealed was the idea of Simcha. And in previous generations, there wasn't such an emphasis on Simcha, even though the Rebbe earlier in the Sikha said, there's the Rambam, and there's a Pasuk in Chumash, and there was even the Arizal, but still the emphasis wasn't on Simcha. Why now is the emphasis on Simcha? For the very same reason like we said before about Chassidus. Because of the difficulties of our time, and we need to have Simcha to counter that. Since in the latter generations was added and increased even more on the other side. The darkness of the exile. Therefore, to nullify this, we need to add even more so in the joy of Torah and the joy of a mitzvah. Ubedoides ha'achronim gufa, and in the latter generations itself, as the darkness of Golus increases, we need to add even more so in the idea of joy. Like we spoke about earlier in this Farbrengen, earlier in this Simcha, the part that we skipped, even though the Arizal talked and spoke and taught about Simcha, but there were still Talmidim of the Arizal and so on, that their avodah was in the way of bitterness and sadness and so on. The Baal Shem Tov added more so than the Arizal, even though the Arizal also taught about the importance of serving Hashem with joy. And so too, it increased in the times of Alter Rebbe. The idea of joy increased, and the necessity for joy and the emphasis on joy increased even over the time of the Baal Shem Tov. Until the double and quadruple darkness in this generation, the final generation of the exile, that in our generation these matters were made well known about the great need for Simcha, in a way, through my father-in-law, in other words, the previous Rebbe, the leader of our generation, made this well known in a way that he spread it out. In other words, the Rebbe is saying that in our generation, this idea has been made more well known than ever any other time before. V'gam b'jargon, it was also brought down in jargon, meaning in the Yiddish language. Not only that, he commanded to translate the matters in 70 languages, which really the Rebbe was the one. Friedrich Rebbe was a few languages. The Rebbe really brought that to the fore about the importance about translating Chassidus in many, many languages, which means that he spread this theme about Simcha in the greatest way possible, more than any previous generation. Why? Because since we're in the latter days of Golus, and the other side, the side counter to Yiddishkeit, and counter to light, and counter to holiness and happiness, is an ascendancy. The way to fight it and the way to defeat it is with joy. Zem, move on, third paragraph from the top. From this is understood. When we see that the other side is in a very strong and powerful way, in a revealed way, that in such a way that he's pointing with his finger and he's saying this. He's saying it about Lumazah. Usually the expression Marabetz Boy Vaimer Zeh is used in Kedusha, Zeh Keli Van Veyu, he could point to it. But when Klippa is so strong, Lumazah means the other side is so strong that you could point to it with the fingers. Mamish, we sing it these days, even in America, where you can actually point out and you say, these people are openly evil without any type of without needing to have any type of discussion. That itself is a proof that the simcha that was up till now is insufficient to nullify the existence of the other side. Therefore, we have to increase and add in the idea of joy even more so than what was previously, because we see that there's still the klippa, and the klippa is really raising its ugly head. So we need to do even more with simcha, because yesterday's simcha obviously did not defeat it yet. So we need to bombard it with even more simcha. How much more so when we see that in the last era, in the latest era, there's the overpowering of the klippa. Loidak Shadaim in his battle. Previously we were just saying that it was nullified. Here we're seeing even worse, that the klippa is getting stronger. Not only should not one become affected by all the obstacles and all the blockages and all the things that are preventing. But just the opposite. We have to increase even more so in all matters of joy. And the Rebbe says, Simcha shel Kedusha can move, and obviously it has to be a joy associated with holiness, self-understood, while negating the idea that there's what's called klippus plishtim, where from Kedusha, because sometimes klippa could nurse from it. So obviously we have to do it in a pure and holy manner, the idea of Simcha. Skip to the end of the brackets. An increase that's so much more powerful and so much stronger, like we said before, in the way that we increase in joy. And it's obvious that they will add and increase in all matters of Simcha. It's connected specifically with the month of Kislev. Yemei Chanukah, we should add in Simcha pertaining to the days of Chanukah. V'lifnei we should add in Simcha beforehand, in the day of Yud Tes Kislev. And even more so, Yud Kislev, we should add in Simcha on the day of the 10th of Kislev, which is the day of the redemption of the Mittler Rebbe. And V'tes Kislev, which is the 9th of Kislev, is the yard and the birthday of the Mittler Rebbe. We should add in Simcha those days. Val achas kama v'kama Rish Chodesh Kislev. How much more so the head of the month of Kislev, which the Rebbe always emphasizes that the head of something includes all the days together. So on Rish Chodesh Kislev, especially in our generations that we know, Rish Chodesh Kislev was the great miracle of the Rebbe's recovery. So then, for sure, it has to be an increase of Simcha, and in a way to overpower any negative forces. And then the Rebbe takes it even earlier. Don't wait till Rish Chodesh Kislev. Already in the Shabbos, where we bench the month of Kislev, because that's what Shabbos Mevarchim is. We are benching. We are adding increased blessing in all matters of the month of Kislev. So therefore, since Kislev is a month that is about joy, so the Shabbos Mevarchim of the month of Kislev also has to be an increase in joy. In addition to the blessing that there is, because of on their own, that every particular time in the month has the Yud Kis, the Tes Kislev has. Then the Rebbe says like this. The Rebbe is sometimes very down to earth, and he says, you know, sometimes I'm speaking to people, but people look at the other guy and say, the Rebbe doesn't mean me. There are those people that when they hear these things, or these words, they have a doubt. Does the Rebbe Taka mean me? And the doubt comes both from one extreme and from another extreme. Aleph, one aspect of the doubt is, since a Yid the person knows about his own self what their spiritual state is, he's doubtful if it means also him. Even let us accept that I will be successful and make myself be happy. Who am I? There's a big problem that these days we have the opposite of what used to be. In the times of the Baal Shem Tov, in the times of the Alter Rebbe, there was a lot of people had a problem with too much ego. These days, the problem is that many of us suffer of an inferiority complex. And he says to himself, I know who I am. I know I'm not a big tzaddik. I know I'm not a big chassid. What benefit or ray could there be if I'm going to be b'simcha? So I'll be b'simcha. Who am I with my simcha to really affect anything and to overcome the klippus with it and so on? Base. Then there's another extreme that says, L'idach, on the other hand, Kol inyane avoida toyenu tzrichen liyisbayfim pnimi. All matters of service of Hashem has to be internalized, has to be real, has to be not fake. Chassidus, very often, there's an expression in Tanya that the person should really love another Yid be'emes, or really be humble be'emes, and so on. Emes, pnimius, that it's really who I am, is really a very core aspect of Avodas Hashem and Chassidus. So therefore, he says to himself, since every matter of Avodah has to be in a way that's pnimius, that's internalized, that's really part of me, since he doubts about himself, even if I make myself be besimcha, is it really going to be who I am, that I am really besimcha, or it's only external, I'm dancing, I'm singing, but inside I'm not really besimcha. So therefore, since it's not who I am, and the whole idea of avodah is to be true to who I am and really experience it, therefore he doesn't know if he needs to be in the state of joy. So the Rebbe says like this, let's just get very, very practical. And therefore, first of all, he has to know, he should know, Safik b'gematria Amalek. Safik is the numerical equivalent of Amalek. And the reason why there is a Safik, and the reason why there is Amalek, that the person should not become someone that is affected by the doubt, and should completely nullify the doubt. So when I see something that there's some good idea comes up, and I have a doubt about it, I should know there's only one purpose in that doubt. The purpose in that doubt is to do with that doubt like I would do with Amalek. Eradicate it. Just like Amalek is supposed to be eradicated, so too when a doubt comes into my mind, eradicate it. Overcome it. Ignore it. In addition to this, you do a piskin quakers admin. It's known, the saying of the Rebbe, in other words, the Friedrich Rebbe, she'even aboichen ladas im machshava zuhi mitzad hakdusha mitzad shekeneged. Sometimes I can have a doubt, but the doubt is whether this is a good or not good thing. So, what is the litmus test? How do I determine whether a particular mode of action, a particular type of approach, is a positive thing, is a good thing, is a holy thing, or maybe not? So the Friedrich Rebbe said, you know how you could tell? Look at the outcome of each of the two sides. What will the doing of it bring you to, or what will the not doing of it bring you to do? What are the actual, what's the outcome, what's the consequences of choosing either one of the other? So the Rebbe says, let's look at this person that has doubts whether I should be besimcha or not. What will be the outcome if he doesn't choose to be besimcha? Concerning our topic, the doubt that perhaps increasing in the joy of a mitzvah and increasing the joy of Torah is something that's not applicable to him. So if he approaches things in that way, by thinking that my simcha has no worth, that's not going to bring him to add any thoughts of kedusha. It's not going to bring him to add anything in words and speech of kedusha. It's not going to bring him to add to any types of actions in kedusha. What will it bring him? All it's going to bring him to is that he could sleep in peace. But that's not his purpose. The person was not created to sleep. And at most, the doubt will bring him to the fact, he'll make a calculation. Whatever is the true way, if he does have to do it, if he doesn't have to do it, if it does help for him to do it, if it doesn't help, my own the poor of my city comes first. So therefore, first I have to be concerned about myself. First and foremost, he is concerned about taking care of his household's needs to make a living. After he made sure to be able to make a good living, so then he'll think about, how am I going to figure out which two sides of this doubt is correct? Does my simcha help? Should I be doing the simcha or not? So the Rebbe says, it's understood and it's obvious. After he immerses his head in making a living, there won't be any time and no brain space left for him to be able to figure out the doubt. Is he at a level where the simcha is going to be really who he is, and it's not going to be external? Since that's the case, first and foremost, he has to do in what matters in action. Action is what's primary. This means to increase in the simcha of Torah and the simcha of mitzvah in actuality. Then the Rebbe talks about, in a similar vein, that this whole discussion and this whole idea about is he real, is it kitzonius, is it pnimius, that has to do with after 120. That doesn't matter for the now. If it's the pnimius, so then his reward in Gan Eden will be in the pnimius of the worlds and pnimius levels of Gan Eden. If it's chitzonius, it's the chitzonius of Gan Eden. But that doesn't matter for now. Now what's important is, in this world, he's in the physical world, action is what counts. And let's go on, let's skip around to the next page. So then the Rebbe goes on the last page over here. He says like this, that in truth, not only that Gan Eden is something for later on, the Gan Eden Shayech Gam B'Olam Hazeh, the idea of Gan Eden is something that's applicable in this world, Kemaimer, like there's a saying of the Chazal, that your world you'll see in your life. What does that mean? That you have Gan Eden here in this world. And the idea of Gan Eden is in the most simple sense. What does it mean to have Gan Eden in this world? A state of rest from all things that disturb him. Well, Dugma, for example, in Yanim Misim, he doesn't have to worry about taxes. How apropos that he's worried from some wild man that could do something that is inappropriate. In this itself, that he's worried about some wild man, not just he's worried about a guy that has no freedom of choice. He's worried even about a Yid, since he has choice, this Yid can consider to do something unwanted. So the Rebbe says, but when we have Gan Eden in this world, when we find ourselves in Gan Eden, like we said, your world you will see in your life, a person has nothing but to fear from unwanted and negative things. Around the Gan Eden, there is the sharpness, the what's called the flame of the sword that turns around, like it says about Gan Eden in the times of Adam Rishon. So they cannot enter into Gan Eden matters that are not wanted. It's true. There's there's a command and there's a mitzvah to do what you have to do by the laws of nature. Like it says, Hashem will bench you in everything that you do. The reason for this is we have to break through the goals. There's another reasons. I'm not going to go into this right now. After a Yid does what's incumbent upon him, there's no room for fear and worry. It's a clear matter that the guardian of Yisrael will not sleep and not slumber. Hashem Shemrecha, Hashem guards you. Hashem Tzilcha, Hashem is your protector and your shadow. Ayad Yimenecha on your right hand. Hashem Yishmar Tzeitzcha v'Yachamat v'Adoilam. Hashem guards your goings and comings from now until forever. Ukefi Shemevin Gam Pasha Shevepshutim, like the most ordinary Yid understands, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Einei Zakuk La'ezer V'Siyua La'etza, that Hashem does not need any assistance and doesn't need any advice. Ketzad Lishma Yehudi, how to guard a Yid. Befrat Kasher Yehudi Koil Asatzvim Atzibur Kuloi, how much more so when a Yid is part of a congregation. Then the Chazal say that the God of the mighty, of the many, of the congregation will not despise their tefillos and so on. The very idea of Hashem's guarding us can be through Hashem. Hashem's guarding us. That it could be in such a way that it might not be done in a pleasant countenance. And that's the uniqueness when a Yid brings himself and joins together with the congregation. Then the idea of the guardianship is in a way that Hashem does not despise. From the negative you derive the positive, that Hashem does so and guards us. B'sever panim yafis, with a beautiful countenance. Panim sheichka is a smiling face. Upanim meirais, an luminous countenance. Al derech hamavur b'negel l'chodesh, similar to what's explained concerning the month of El. U'ba'erpnei melchaim, we live by the light of the King's face. U'mekivin shekain, since that is the case, yachol kol echad v'echad l'lechas levetach darkei, every Yid can go confident on his way, to increase in all matters of Torah and its mitzvahs. By Safim Yuchedas, and a special and unique increase, Simcha shel mitzvah, Simcha shel Torah, and the joy of a mitzvah and the joy of Torah, in the way of increasing and adding in light.
Sounds like a